On Global TV News Express, President Tinubu to grace 2025 Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit in Abuja. In business, Nigeria Exports Processing Zones Authority bans Pengasin from strike against Dangote Refinery. On the foreign scene, Peru's Congress votes to remove President Bolate at crime grips nation. In sports, University of Jos set to host Nigerian University Games. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Express on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Aniti Patrick. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and on Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu to grace the 8th edition of the Nigerian Diaspora Investment Summit as a special guest of honor. The announcement was made during a press briefing in Abuja by the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabire Erewa, scheduled to take place from November 11 to 13th, 2025 in Abuja. Away from that, Nigeria's Senate is taking a firm stance against what it describes as misleading international narratives portraying the country as unsafe for Christians. Lawmakers have resolved to hold an executive session next week to deliberate on moves by the international community to classify Nigeria as a terrorist nation over alleged Christian genocide. Global TV's Topsy Gimba reports.
The decision followed a motion raised by Senator Ali Ndume representing Borno South on the urgent need to correct what he termed as false and dangerous narratives about religious persecution in Nigeria. In his lead debate, Senator Ali Ndume expressed concern over the growing support, particularly in international circles, alleging widespread attacks targeted at Christians. He challenged recent moves by the United States Congress to list Nigeria as a country of particular concern, insisting that such claims ignore the reality that both Christians and Muslims have been victims of terrorism and banditry.
Note that Nigeria continues to face insurgency, terrorism, banditry, communal violence, and criminal attacks, which have tragically claimed the lives of both Christians and Muslims.
In contribution, Senator Aliu Wamako, Kawo Suleiman, and Ibrahim Jimo supported the motion, stressing the need for a balanced understanding of the crisis. Senator Jimo particularly called for a deeper investigation into the motives of terrorist groups before any conclusions are drawn.
Killed in Sokoto and Paragua. No, not all of them are Muslims and not Christians. This investigation, Mr. President, cannot be allowed to continue as it is. We must take decisive steps to ensure that we readdress the reality of what is ongoing in Nigeria.
And I think as a parliament, we must take a position and we must join hands with the government to inform the U.S. and the U.S. Congress that the position they are taking is not in tandem with the reality of what is going on.
Understand the tactics and the practice of the terrorists.
Advising the senators on the motion, the Senate leader, Kwemi Bamidele Ikiti Central, called for its step down to another date following the motion's complex nature.
Our conviction that the insecurity problem, the insecurity challenge in Nigeria is not religion-driven.
Resolving on the motion, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, ruled that the motion be stepped down to Tuesday next week, where it will be deliberated in an executive session following the complex nature of the matter. He, however, countered the international community on its decision that Christians were not the only ones persecuted in Nigeria.
Only religious-driven, but very complex, so that we can come up with a proper strategy that will not only address the issues, but also clean the image of Nigeria. So that
the Senate adjourned the plenary as soon as the motion was taken to resume sitting next week, Tuesday. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
With its National Elective Convention fast approaching, The People's Democratic Party (PDP) says it is leaving nothing to chance in ensuring a smooth and colorful event. The party's Entertainment and Welfare Subcommittee met in Abuja to fine-tune plans for delegates, welfare, logistics and entertainment ahead of the convention scheduled for November 14th and 15th in Ibadan, Oyo State. Global TV political correspondent Ubong Usoro has the rest of the story.
It's less than a month to the PDP's National Elective Convention, and preparations are in top gear. Members of the Entertainment and Welfare Subcommittee converged in Abuja to deliberate on key arrangements aimed at ensuring comfort, unity, and a memorable experience for party delegates. Discussions centered on logistics, including accommodation, transportation, welfare support, entertainment, programming, all of which are considered crucial to the success of the convention.
We expect a great deal from you because preparations are in full gear, and as members of the Entertainment and Welfare Committee, we are all saddled with the responsibility of thinking on how to entertain our members on that day.
Briefing journalists after the meeting, PDP National Publicity Secretary Debo Oloboduo assured all that the subcommittees are working in harmony to deliver what he described as a credible, peaceful, and unifying national convention.
Our trip, our movement has gathered momentum every day as we move towards Ibadan, and we're promising a very successful convention, which of course will strengthen our party in readiness for the 2027 election, which of course Nigerians are giving us the heads up that it will be won by the PDP.
Committee members also revealed that the convention will feature cultural displays, musical performance, interactive sessions designed to celebrate Nigeria's diversity and strengthen party's unity. The subcommittee is expected to present its final program and budget proposal to the main National Convention Organizing Committee within the week. As the PDP intensifies preparations for its convention in Ibadan, expectations are high that the event will not only shape the future of the party but also showcase its commitment to inclusion, culture, and national cohesion. Ubong Usoro for Global Television.
Nigeria is taking a bold step to reclaim its voice on the global stage as the federal government has officially presented Dr. Tawhid Olufemi Elias as its candidate for election into the International Court of Justice, ICJ. The presentation was made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, to members of the diplomatic community in Abuja. Ramsey Enoch Agbo has the details.
For over a decade, no candidate from the ECOWAS region has served at the International Court of Justice, a gap Nigeria says must be bridged. Addressing ambassadors and international representatives, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Metamatuga, says Nigeria's latest nomination reflects the country's commitment to strengthening Africa's representation in global judicial affairs.
Africa has consistently contributed jurists of great distinction, yet no candidate from the ECOWAS region has served on the ICJ since 2011, when Judge Abdul Koroma of Sierra Leone concluded his second term. Even more striking, Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, has not had a national on the court for over 30 years.
The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Umar Ahmed, says the presentation of Tawhid Olufemi Elias as a candidate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the International Court of Justice is with profound commitment.
As Nigeria presents its candidature to the International Court of Justice, we do so with a profound commitment to the values of international law, fairness, and impartiality, values that we know are equally held in high esteem by your governments. We are therefore deeply appreciative of your openness to engage with us on this important journey.
In his remarks, Dr. Olufemi Elias reflected on his decades of legal and academic experience, noting that his candidacy represents not only Nigeria, but also the aspirations of Africa for a stronger presence in the international legal system.
In order to rise to the top, particularly in a judicial capacity in any system, you have to have experience, practical experience in that system. I have spent more than 20 years in the United Nations system as a lawyer, serving in different capacities in The Hague, in Arusha in Tanzania, in Geneva, and in Washington, D.C.
FRN for International Court of Justice, as Nigeria rallies international support for Dr. Elias' nomination, the country hopes his election to the ICJ will mark a new chapter for West Africa's participation in advancing justice and fairness on the global stage. Ramsey Enoch Agbo, Global TV News, Abuja.
The House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Basic Education and Examination Bodies to investigate the financial activities of the National Examination Council, NECO, from 2023 to 2025. The motion, sponsored by Amobi Oga, came under matters of urgent public importance. National Assembly correspondent has more on this. Oga expressed concern over alleged irregularities in NECO's budget implementation, internally generated revenue, and the reported use of variants without legislative approval. He reminded the House that Sections 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution empower the National Assembly to summon any government agency and demand full accountability. Following deliberations, the House resolved to mandate its Committee on Basic Education and Examination Bodies to investigate NECO's financial performance and bank records from 2023 to date and report back within 3 weeks.
The House is worried that NECO is allegedly implementing its variants without the required legislative approval. If this is so, it is a flagrant violation of our Constitution and inherent powers of this Honorable House.
In another development, the House of Representatives has resolved to conduct a comprehensive forensic audit of Nigeria's power sector reform program, spanning nearly 2 decades, to determine how trillions of naira in public funds were utilized. The motion, sponsored by Basi Ekpenyong, APC Cross River State, came under matters of urgent public importance at plenary. He expressed concern that despite repeated interventions, loans, and budgetary allocations over the years, the country continues to grapple with erratic electricity supply and poor infrastructure. They mandated an ad hoc committee to investigate all funds allocated and expended under the electric power sector reform program from 2007 to 2024, a period covering the now repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005 and its successor, the Electricity Act of 2023.
The House resolved to invite the Minister of Power, the Managing Director of Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, heads of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Royal Electrification Agency, and other relevant stakeholders to appear before the committee.
Ministers and heads of relevant agencies have been summoned to appear before the committee, which is to submit its findings and recommendations within 12 weeks for further legislative action. Annie T. Patrick, reporting for Global TV. Again, the House of Representatives has joined the global community to commemorate the International Day of the Girl Child, reaffirming Nigerians' commitment to empowering girls as agents of change. Marking the 2025 theme, The Girl I Am, The Change I Lead, Girls on the Front Lines of Crisis. Lawmakers urged the federal government to prioritize education and skills development for girls, particularly those affected by conflicts and emergencies. Again, our national National Assembly correspondent tells us more. Coming under a motion of urgent public importance by Kafilat Ogbara, APC Lagos State, lawmakers emphasized that empowering girls is not only vital to their own future, but the peace, progress, and sustainable development of the nation. The House therefore called on security agencies to strengthen protection mechanism against violence and exploitation, while mandating the Ministry of Women Affairs to create safe spaces and provide mental health support for girls. The Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development was directed to ensure compliance with these resolutions.
Call on the federal government to prioritize education and skills development for girls, especially in crisis-affected communities.
In another development, the House resolves to set up an ad hoc committee composed of members drawn from the committees on petroleum resources, upstream and downstream, public accounts, anti-corruption, finance, and legislative compliance to investigate funds appropriated and disbursed for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries between 2010 and 2024.
To investigate all funds appropriated and disbursed for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries between the year 2010 and 2024.
The House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to provide for the creation of Ibadan State with Ibadan as the proposed capital city and for related matters, HB 2439. The motion was moved on the floor of the House by the member representing Ibadan Northeast, Ibadan Southeast Federal Constituency, Oyo State, Adigun Adekunle.
Anything that has to do with refineries cannot solely be the responsibility of downstream. I'm a member of upstream, and I can tell you that downstream, the issue of refineries is also under different committees.
The House, however, adjourned proceeding to Tuesday, 14th October after considering 4 bills for third reading. Aniete Patrick, reporting for Global TV. You're watching the live broadcast of News Express. When News Express returns, Nigerian government bans Pengasin from strike against Dangote refinery. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. It's good to have you back on News Express. In business, Nigerian government through the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority has banned the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria from industrial actions that contravene free trade zone regulations. Managing Director of the authority, Olufemi Ogunyemi, disclosed this in a statement in Abuja, stating that Dangote refinery falls under the free trade zone. The federal government's agencies are prohibited from strikes and lockouts within such zones for a period of 10 years from commencement of operations. And on the foreign scene, Peru's Congress has voted to remove President Dina Boluarte among the world's most unpopular leaders in a late-night session called hours after political parties from across the spectrum demanded her impeachment as the nation fights an intensive crime wave. Politicians voted to debate Boluarte's removal from office on grounds of moral incapacity and summoned her to defend herself before Congress. However, the president never arrived, and lawmakers had sufficient votes to proceed with a rapid impeachment process shortly after midnight, with 124 voting in favor of removing her. In Cameroon, Anglophones regions, a separatist imposed lockdown ahead of the October 12 presidential election has forced schools and shops to close, leaving residents trapped in their homes and struggling to cope with weeks of disruption amid a decade-long separatist conflict in the country's English-speaking areas. Uyi Agumofebe completes the report.
Where visitors once used to gather on Limbe's spectacular beaches of black volcanic sand, holiday makers have become scarce since fighters from the country's Anglophone minority mounted a revolt in 2016. Separatists had taken up arms after the government brutally crushed protests by English speakers angry at what they saw as their marginalization in the mostly francophone country, killing at least 6,000 people in fighting. In recent years, the conflict has eased, though tensions have risen with Cameroon's upcoming presidential election scheduled for October 12. Some citizens speak on the implications of the lockdown.
This lockdown was supposed just to focus on school resumption, but taking it up to October, second week of October, is a lot of suffering to the common population, and I think the presidential election 2025 was targeted, or it was a target to make sure that people don't go out to vote.
This is one of the prolonged lockdown that we have more than 6 weeks, because it happened that this year too is an election year, and you know the separate lockdown is meant to frustrate the activities of the state, which is the election.
However, academic activities and civil life have been far worse hit by the extremely restrictive measure put in place by government.
Teachers come, the students are not there. For the few teachers who are able to come, those who live in the green zones where there is security. The ordinary civilian, we just have to be cautious and take precautions for our own safety.
Since the crisis began, the separatists have called for a ghost town strike each Monday, with shops shuttering and locals told to stay at home. Uyi Agumofebe reporting for Global TV News.
And in sports, the countdown to the 27th edition of the Nigerian Universities Games Association, NUGA, has begun, with organizers expressing optimism that this year's games present an opportunity to discover talent across a wide range of sporting activities. Speaking exclusively on Global TV's breakfast program, Global Morning, Vice Chancellor of the institution hosting this year's games, University of Jos, Professor Tanko Ishaya, stated that all is set to ensure a smooth 10-day event that will redefine universities' games across Nigeria. Over to Uyi Agumofebe for more.
The Vice-Chancellor said the Games would not only attract people from the university community across the country, but will be a source of discovering talents and strengthening university sports in tertiary institutions for Nigeria and Africa's benefit.
We know we have the best talents in Nigeria, youths. And of course, one of the areas that we get those best talents is from universities. And we believe that NUGA, the Nigerian University Games Association, has been in Nigeria for a while. But not many people even know about NUGA, apart from the...
As Global TV News Express comes to an end, here's a recap of our top stories. On Global TV News Express, President Bola Tinubu will attend the 8th edition of the Nigerian Diaspora Investment Summit as the special guest of honor. In business, we told the Nigerian government through the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority has banned the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria from industrial actions that contravene free trade zone regulations. And on the foreign scene, Peru's Congress has voted to remove President Dina Boluarte among the world's most unpopular leaders in a late-night session called hours after political parties from across the spectrum demanded her impeachment as the nation fights an intensive crime wave. And in sports, the countdown to the 27th edition of Nigerian University Games Association NUGA has begun, with organizers expressing optimism that this year's games